Welcome to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson.
I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
Always a pleasure to host with you.
It is. It's good to be in this place with you at this particular time.
Likewise, and we're joined by Arian Nicole.
Yes.
Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you.
You're welcome. And just before we hear all about what you're doing, I want to thank our sponsors.
Yes, Lee and Casso and Crawley, Stewart Mortuary, Fervent Care Christian Academy. Our sponsors, I hope that you will give them your business. Not only that, if you have a desire to be a sponsor of Real People, Real Voices, we'd love to have you. We'd make sure your company gets the type of information out there in the community that it needs.
And I want you to make sure you go to YouTube and like us on Facebook. Arian, so good to have you here on today. Tell us about some of the things you're doing. You're going to launch your new company.
Yes. And so first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to share my voice on today. And yes, so I'm launching my company, but first let me say, by trade, I'm a family nurse practitioner. And so I do that full time. I'm a novice nurse practitioner, so I've been a registered nurse for over a decade. So I'm an expert RN nurse, but I'm a new...
Expert RN.
Yes, expert RN in what I do. Of course, nurses, we can't know everything because we don't work in every field, and it's so vast. But I am a fairly new nurse practitioner, and I work full-time for a company. However, I like to think I work pretty heavily for my company as well, Arian Nicole Speaks, that will be launching on June the 30th.
Outstanding.
So.
And you minister to a lot of women, and one of the things we discovered that you talk about is mastering self-love.
Yes.
Of course, the Bible says no man ever yet hated his own flesh.
Right.
Nourisheth and cherisheth it. How are you motivating women to love themselves?
Well, for one, I believe that women should be intentional about self-care and about loving themselves. And as a nurse practitioner, I realize that care of self is vitally important. And so I like to use the analogy, like if you get onto a plane and the flight attendant, she's in the middle of the aisle and she's giving you directions as to if some emergency comes up, she tells you to put your mask on first. Even if your child is sitting next to you or your spouse, you have to first put the mask on yourself so that you can adequately help your neighbor. And so the way I'm helping women to love themselves is by helping to shift the mindset of the woman. Many times women, we're walking around, we have certain kind of voids, and we're leaning on substances as well as people for fulfillment, when really we just need to change our perspective, our mindset, dig deep within, nurture our spirits, and learn to love ourselves.
Outstanding. And that's something that you're going to be launching in a bigger way, June 30th. Talk to us about that event.
Yes, so that event is called the Little Black Dress Brunch. And there's going to be live music, jazz, saxophonist Greg Bacon, as well as The Flame Catering. And so he's an up-and-coming caterer who's, been doing amazing things in the city. So he'll be there. It's going to be upscale. It's going to be an intimate setting. No tickets are sold at the door. If people are interested, they can go onto Eventbrite and they can search Arian Nicole, or they can search the Little Black Dress Brunch and it'll pop right up for them.
Outstanding. And a lot of times these kinds of initiatives come out of personal experience. So what precipitated this kind of initiative?
Well, I have a love and a passion for performing arts. And so with that being said, I started performing at a very young age, but I started to go through different numberless tests, starting at the age of 17, where I delivered my son. I left the hospital, and I went and walked for my high school graduation. And so 2 days after I delivered my son, I went and had my baby. And I've been overcoming trials ever since then. In one semester alone, when I was in the master's program, my son was entering into high school. I had a middle-aged child who was going into pre-K. I had a newborn baby that I had just gave birth to. I went through a divorce. My mother had had a stroke, and I was going through emotional battles.
Wow.
So I have to say that every day I'm still continuously on this journey to self-love. That's what I call it. I don't think that there's a destination.
Yeah, and helping other people to discover that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so vitally important. Dr. Moore, in this atmosphere of suicide and self-loathing and depression, something like this could be very helpful.
I think it could be. I think everybody needs to first learn that they need to love themselves in order to love other people. If you don't love yourself and do it properly, which there is a proper way, you're not going to be able to allow love to flow through you to someone else. And so I think this is dynamic. I think that it sounds like the process that you went through put you in a place to where it robbed you of self-worth.
Yes.
And so therefore that was your platform to move to mindset of loving yourself. That's what I hear. And you look like you have no problem now with self-worth. And that's phenomenal. I applaud you for that.
Well, thank you very much. I want to say that a person can't really love themselves past their character. And we found at the age of 8 is when people's character and their personality is shaped. So many people, young adults and older people, are operating off of something that happened to them under the age of 8, and subconsciously they don't even have a clue.
Right.
So we just have to discover ourselves.
Well, Arian, thank you. You've been a great guest.
Thank you.
All the best to you and all of your efforts.
Absolutely, thank you.
Stay with us. We have much more to come. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Real People, Real Voices, and we are joined by Ebony Chappelle.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here today with you all.
And we're honored to have you, the Indiana Donor Network. Talk to us about what you do there.
Yes, sir. So the Indiana Donor Network, we are one of 58 organ procurement organizations in the United States of America. And what it is that we do is we present a life-saving bridge between people who are on the transplant waiting list right now. A lot of us, we know people that are on dialysis, they have kidney failure, they're in need of kidney transplants, different things like that. So we provide a life-saving bridge to those people. We also work with transplant hospitals here in the state of Indiana to connect people to those organs. And we also have a team of people that procure these life-saving gifts from people who registered as organ donors while they were still alive.
You're in a new location, aren't you?
Yes, I am in a new location, so a lot of people would recognize my name from the Indianapolis Recorder newspaper, where I served very proudly for about 4.5 years. So, yep, I've moved on.
That's an interesting transition.
Yeah, it is an interesting transition. I think the biggest thing for me is that at my heart, I am a servant of people at my heart and at my core. So wanted to find another opportunity to do that in a new realm, just a way to stretch myself professionally and personally. And it has been a great blessing so far.
How are you all encouraging people to become organ donors?
Well, by doing things like this, by being on programs such as yours, and just being out in the community and educating people. Right now, there are about 115,000 people nationwide on the transplant waiting list. In the state of Indiana, there are about 1,500 people on the transplant waiting list. Nationally, African Americans make up 30% of people on that waiting list. We are the highest minority group in need. There is a huge need there, but not enough of us know that, and a lot of us are frankly misinformed about the process. There's a lot of misinformation out there in the media about what it means to be an organ donor. People misunderstand the process and think that it's something nefarious and negative, when in all reality, it is very miraculous and beautiful and helps save so many people's lives.
So when you say that black people, or African Americans, I like to say black people, but when you say make up a lot of that folks on the waiting list, is that genetics, or is it priority where other ethnic groups get the organs first, or why do you think that is?
So there's a few different factors at play. One of the biggest things is, I would say, lack of access to proper health care. A lot of us live in areas where we are not able to go to the doctor. Maybe we don't have proper insurance. We live in areas that are food deserts, so we don't have access to proper nutrition, so we're not eating healthily. We also have the genetic factors. We have all of that. African Americans are disproportionately affected by things like hypertension, high blood pressure, diabetes, renal failure. So all of those things put us at a higher risk for these diseases, which leads then to organ failure. As far as who gets transplanted first, there is no barrier to who gets transplanted first. You cannot buy your way to the top of the list. They don't pick based on race and things like that. The matching process is based on body size, blood match, how severe someone's illness is, and their location geographically to where an organ is available. There is a lot of research right now, specifically for kidney, because African Americans are less likely to get a kidney transplant than people who are Caucasian. A white person on the transplant waiting list 3 times as likely, and a lot of it is because we do not have enough African Americans that are on the donor registry. So sometimes when our family members are passing away, if they're not already registered, their next of kin is automatically saying no.
And so that dispels the idea of dollar amounts putting you in a position to get a kidney.
No,
What I'm saying, let me
Yes,
finish, let me finish. When you said that, you basically said, because the people that I'm a community person, and people say, well, you know, my family didn't have the money. We're not in a certain class. This is what you hear in the community. And I'm basically complimenting you, telling you that you dispelled that today.
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
that's what I'm basically trying to help you to understand. You help the community by knowing that that falsehood that has been, and you hear it in your congregation. That's what, in our community, that's what people think.
Absolutely, and I
Because we're not on the donor registry.
Yes.
We lose people.
We lose people
Right.
that could save someone's life, you know, that is in need.
That's exactly what,
Yeah.
you helped us with that today.
Absolutely.
And as I understand it, you don't have to be dead to be a donor.
No, you do not. There are many ways that somebody could be a living donor. So we were talking about kidney. You can be a living donor to someone that is in need of a kidney transplant. You can do that. There's also a great need for blood donation from people of communities of color, as well as bone marrow. There is a huge need. So there are multiple different ways to be involved in this.
Now, bone marrow, if you're a donor for bone marrow, and I don't know if you know, would that be painful to donate bone marrow?
So I've never had the process done myself, so I can't speak to the severity of pain, but I have heard from people that it's slightly uncomfortable process.
It's pain.
That's a good way to put it.
You said it's
That's a good way.
pain.
Yeah, Ebony, that's a good way to put it.
Slightly.
That's a good way to put it,
Because
Ebony.
everybody has different tolerance levels
Yeah,
for pain. You
right.
know, for some people, going to get a shot at the doctor is like awful, but for other folks, it's, you know, it's not
Yeah.
too bad. So,
And I see a lot of people at the plasma centers lined up a lot of time, donating blood. So it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is a good thing. It is a good thing. There is such a huge need, as I stated before, for people of color. You know, a lot of times people want to talk about saving ourselves and being for community, you know,
Get on the
caring about
donors list.
community. This is one way. This
on
is
the
one way
donors
to
list.
definitely show your care and your love for your community, is helping to save the lives of your brothers and sisters by doing this.
Ebony, thanks for sharing
Thank
the
you, Ebony.
information.
Thank you so much for having me. I definitely appreciate it. I would like to encourage people to visit our website for more information,
you can do that right
indianadonornetwork.org. You can go onto our website, learn more about what it is that we do, read stories of hope from donor families, and you can also register your own donation decision on that site.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bless your spirit.
We'll be back after this. Well, welcome back to Real People, Real Voices. I'm your host, James Jackson,
And I'm your co-host, Pastor Wayne Moore.
and we are here with the artist, Gary G. Welcome to the program.
Thank y'all for having me here.
You're welcome. How'd you get into doing all this wonderful art?
I've actually was like, one of those kids that would always lay in the floor drawing since I was like 5 or 6 years old. About 6th grade, my mother actually brought me a professional artist kit. Like, she knew before I knew where I was headed. Junior high, I ended up taking Saturday school classes at Heron. Like, they gave up a scholarship. I went to School 101, Harshman Junior High. Lady Sharon King, it got me into it, and I ended up winning the scholarship every semester I was there, 7th and 8th grade. Ended up at IU for a summer arts camp. First African-American kid to go in the early 80s. Then kind of drift off and got into other stuff, streets and everything else, but came back to Ivy Tech in my later years for graphic design. I ended up in another fine arts class and transferred from there to Heron and ended up with a couple of degrees and started doing shows. So it was like kind of just living my life's passion later in life.
Yeah, we're able to come back and get back to it.
Yes,
You were
sir.
prodigal. You left and came back to it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Good to have you back.
Find your way home.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
it. So tell us about the work that we have here on the desk.
This is a ceramic skull. It's hand cast. I call it the King is Black. It's a black diamond and a hematite glaze, and it's an actual 24 karat gold in the firing, the final firing of that.
24 karat?
24 karat. And
It seems like you've given the king a great dental plan there.
yeah, the part of the dental plan with the king was also kind of like a self-representation from the era of the kids. You know, we got the grills and and the gold teeth, and sometimes people may look at you as, perceive you as one way, but on your inward period. And the reason why I like to use skulls is we all have a skull. It protects our most valuable asset, which is our brain, and it's the knowledge. And no matter where I've been in life, your memories and the things that you learn, your education, these are things that people can't take from you. So I've kind of reinvented myself to pride myself on learning something new every day.
Yeah.
Tell us about what you're going to be doing in the future as it relates to art shows.
As far as art shows, this weekend I will be at, there is a book arts fair downtown at the Central Library this weekend. I believe it starts 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. I have a couple of pieces inside the Cultural Arts Center as well, and I'll be out under a tent. Then June 27th, I have a one-day show in Brooklyn, the Brooklyn Bazaar, and I'll be back here on the 30th. There's a Indie Dig, has a manhole cover, and they have 5 artists that they selected, 5 artist teams, and there'll be like a big food truck day, and I think it's June 30th. I forget the exact time that starts off, but I'll post all the information on my website.
So you're one of the 5?
I'm one of the 5.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
And looks like you're going to be at the summer celebration too.
Yes, I will be at the summer celebration. Part of an artist collective. I mean, we are, several of us will be showing work at the Indiana Black Expo this summer. And also in conjunction with that is a lady named Miss D. Del Rivera that does Flavor Fresh. And there's like 5 venues from July to January. It usually starts in the Arts Garden downtown and ends at the library on, what's that, 42nd and College, I believe, yeah.
So talk to us about some of the branding, merchandising, artist logos. That's some of the scope of your work.
Yes, a lot of that kind of started as a side project or like as a joke. When I started taking college classes and they asked you who are your artistic influences, and everybody would want to say Picasso, Gauguin, you know, everybody under the sun. And I was like, man, I sat there and I looked and I said, J.J. Evans is who got me into doing art. J.J. Evans wore the bucket hats.
Yeah.
Good times. Well, the professor loved it, but he
Which
said,
is on your shirt, right?
It's on my shirt.
Now,
So
did you create that?
I created this, so it became a representation of me. I was like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. I had a logo. I wanted one too.
That's your logo.
This is my logo, so it's actually me in the Kango hat. You know, I grew up in that hip hop era, so we always had the Kangos like LL and MC Shan, Run DMC, and everybody. So a lot of my artwork and myself, I kind of go back to my junior high self.
Yeah.
And it was like when I was free and playful, and so I try to make a lot of that expressive in my work.
Okay.
When I come back to it. But so I do branding for some other people, T-shirts as well. And it just started as a way at first for me to get money to buy art supplies, like doing the shows and You know, somebody might not buy a piece for $300 or $400, but they'll buy a T-shirt for $15 or $20. So it just started working as a way to work myself around, and it kind of helped. People will recognize me, especially when other people started.
If your
wearing
artwork
shirts.
doesn't sell, you still got to eat. Is that what you said?
Still got to eat.
I hear you.
If you don't work, you don't eat.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And how long does it take to do something like the King is Black here?
This piece probably took, I would say, 5 to 6 weeks over the course of the time. Like, you know, sometimes I'll start with like a sketch, a concept sketch, and then with the thing with ceramics is you have to fire them. So I have to roll it out into a slab, and then I make like a form, usually out of newspaper or balloons, and mold it around that. Mold it around that. And then I'll come back and I'll start doing the glazing or the underglazing. So it's a couple of processes, usually like 3 to 5 processes. The gold will be one of the last thing that goes on after a clear. But then it's also a science with ceramics.
Right.
And that's where the kid that also comes to me, like even though I went back from just being like a self-taught or a street artist and got some degrees, I had only had several ceramics classes, but ended up with a degree in it. And it's like you still learning, like everything doesn't turn out like you want or expect it to sometimes. So it's a constant learning process.
Yeah.
So you are a qualified art teacher.
I'm not necessarily an art teacher, but I have a couple of degrees in art, so
Okay.
I've kind of assisted and aided some people
Okay.
in art as well.
Well, all the best to your work. Thanks for joining us today. And thank you all for joining us. We'll see you this time next week. Welcome back. Full show today. I'm your host, James Jackson.
Co-host Pastor Wayne Moore.
Executive producer Faith McKinney.
And we had a great show there, quite a few guests, but
Right.
a lot of information.
Right. That's what we're going to continue to do, bring you information so we can make sure you know what's going on in our community.
And it's so important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why we're here. We're here to inform our audience and bring them new and exciting information.
Yeah, we had some great stuff there. We want to make sure that you're getting it all. If you missed it, no problem. Subscribe to our WHMB TV 40 YouTube channel. Become a subscriber there, and you can also like us on Facebook.
We'll be there.
Yeah, all the shows you might have missed, all the information that you need is encapsulated in those shows. We hope to see you next Sunday or Friday at 9:30, next Sunday at 5:30. Until then, God bless you. Have a great day.
We love you.